professor with College of Medicine, and also both of them have been with HQC since the very beginning, with CQIP since the very beginning. So we'll have a chance to chat with them about some of their reflections. And then, as always, we have time at the end for your questions. So as we go through this, do feel free to put questions in the chat, preferably not Q&A, as Riley said, because we will address those as we get to the end. All right, so just a little bit of background on CQIP for those of you that might not be familiar with the program or its origins. So you'll see on the slide a picture of Brent James, New York Times Magazine. So he created a program called the Mini Advanced Training Program, or ATP, which is offered through Intermountain Health in Utah. This is an internationally recognized program, and for a number of years we had sent a small group of physicians to the program in Utah to learn. And, great program, but the feeling was that it would be really wonderful to have an equivalent program in Saskatchewan so that more clinicians would be able to access it. Intermountain was very welcoming of being a sister program and sharing materials and advice to us in doing that. And so with their blessing, we decided to move ahead with the Saskatchewan-ized version of the program. So in June 2016, it was a Saturday. It was a beautiful Saturday, which, as we know, are very, very special in Saskatchewan. We had a design session to look at how we could adapt this program to Saskatchewan. So this design team, it was a wonderful group of folks with a bunch of diverse perspectives. So we had graduates of the Intermountain program, so those folks that had gone to Utah, both physicians and non-physicians. We had graduates of other QI programs, such as Quick School, CPR Collaborative, Leader, Saskatchewan Medical Association with their Ministry of Health with their Appropriateness of Care team. We had representatives from what were then the VPs of Quality in the health regions and HQC, and then 2 fantastic patient advisors. So we had a very intense day, a lot of hard work, but the group made progress, and we came together around a design for the program. So one of the things we did that day was really look at what would the program goals be. So what would we want this program to achieve? So really, we want people that graduated to be able to do clinical quality improvement work, to have provincial capability to support clinical QI work, so that internal consultants for their areas and across the system, and then folks that could teach and coach others in clinical QI methods and tools. We really felt that all of these were essential for building individual and provincial capability for clinical QI. To reach these goals, we have sort of 4 key themes that the program covers. So quality improvement in the Saskatchewan healthcare system. So this is that whole thing about wanting it customized for our province. The second theme is quality improvement science and methodology. So really exploring the scientific method for improvement, learning how to use the key tools and approaches for that. Human side of change, because that's a big piece of it. So how do we work with teams and others to make and sustain change? And then a deep dive into clinical QI. So building on the quality improvement science theme, this goes further into tools for clinical improvement with a particular focus on appropriateness. Since its launch, the CQIP has attracted a very diverse group of participants from both a geographic and a practice perspective. I find it really hard to believe we're on Cohort 5 already. It seems like this program has flown by. We've had participants come from our 2 major centers, Saskatoon and Regina, but as well from smaller centers such as Prince Albert, Current, North Battleford, Radisson, and Yorkton. So it's been delightful to see the spread across our province. And diversity in terms of the clinical roles. So we've had both family physicians and specialists as well as non-physician clinical roles. And you can see in the diagram just the variety of roles with the size of the text indicating sort of the volume of people that are in those roles. So a nice spread, and I think one of the joys of the program is that cross-learning that you get from folks that might not ordinarily cross paths in the course of their work. Okay, I'm getting feedback that I'm a little bit echoey. Okay, I'm going to just slightly, and let me know, is this any better? I'm a little bit closer to my mic. Okay, I'm going to proceed as if it is and continue to give me feedback. If not, in quality improvement, we call this PDSA. So what makes CQIP special? So I think there are a few different elements to CQIP that have made it the program that it is. So we have physician-led faculty, and Gary is one of those faculty members. So it's clinicians teaching other clinicians, which you don't see in every program. Physician coaches, so each participant is paired with a coach. These coaches are physicians with experience in QI, and as we graduate a cohort, graduates and alumni become coaches and faculty. And so there's that sort of that building and building out of the community and that ongoing learning. We use Flip Classroom, so we have online modules, and then in person we have these interactive workshops. Of course, Cohort 5 with the pandemic, it'll be all online, but we'll still have that synchronous opportunity for folks to gather together. Experiential learning, so every participant has a hands-on clinical improvement project. So they take that theory that they're learning in the online modules and in the workshops, and they're applying it in their own context. And then networking and community, and this is something that we've had feedback is a really important component. So there's a learning network. We have a lot of really intentional time for people to connect together. And again, with that model of having coaches be alumni, having faculty be alumni, it just continues to strengthen that learning network. So those are the elements, but how is it working? So as part of CQIP design, we have an evaluation framework that was developed to support both formative and summative evaluation. So we use Kirkpatrick model of evaluation, and for those of you that aren't familiar, it has 4 levels. So level 1 is basically emotional reaction. So how do people feel about the learning? What did they enjoy? What did they struggle with? Level 2 is achieving learning outcomes. So this is, we have the goals of the program. Did our program actually help people learn that? Level 3 is behavioral change. So people may have learned what we wanted them to, but are they actually using it in their daily practice? And then level 4 is the impact. So people learned what we wanted them to, they're actually using it, but what are we seeing as a result of that? So during the program for levels 1 and 2, we get feedback from each workshop. We have a mid and an end of program evaluation that we send out. But to get to level 3 and 4, you often need this time delay because you want to know what happened afterwards, did it stick. So we have a follow-up survey that we send out to the cohorts after their capstone a year after that really looks at 2 things. So the extent to which they are continuing to use the knowledge and skills that they developed in the program, and the extent to which using these skills has had an impact or what they're seeing as a result of using these skills. So we have done the survey for cohort 1 and 2, so I'll be sharing those results. Cohort 3, we did have to delay the survey a little bit with the pandemic. People's attention was understandably diverted elsewhere as it should have been, but we were able to send it out a little while ago, and so we are now going through the results and putting it together in the report, which we hope to share soon. But just to flag that what I share, it is the results from the cohort 1 and 2 12-month follow-up survey feedback. So based on survey respondents, 100% of graduates said that they were continuing to work on other QI projects or initiatives, whether this was a lead role, team member, or a consultant role. So I think that was a really exciting result for us to see, is that we wanted people to learn this and then be able to use it, and that does seem to be happening. We'd asked people what kinds of projects they were involved in, and you can see that there's just a huge breadth of things that people are doing. So reducing variation, improving processes, projects around safety or reliability, improving experience, and contributing in ways both large and small. So sometimes they've been involved in the planning and development, or they're leading these projects. Sometimes it's that expert support around data or team building. And sometimes it's that more informal, just sharing their suggestions or being asked those sort of in-the-moment questions that often come up when you do improvement work. So great breadth, and not only in the kinds of projects, but in the kinds of ways that they're engaged. We also wanted to know, we asked, what were their top 3 learnings from the program? And the responses kind of fell into these 3 themes. So participants from both cohorts described QI science and theory as areas of learning, which is fantastic because that is a key goal of the program. Data collection and analysis also came out, and they are part of QI science, but it was a big learning that came out as its own theme. And then the other thing was both cohorts identified the people side of change as a key learning, but they had slightly different focus areas. So one cohort, it was more about the change management side of it. And the other cohort, it was more, they described improvement in their ability to maintain productive relationships with colleagues and patients. So those are just a few of the results. And of course, we're excited to dive into the Cohort 3 survey to learn more. So as mentioned, stay tuned with that. We are hoping to share those results out very soon. All right, so whirlwind tour of the program, but I think what I'm really excited about is to hear the reflections of some of my colleagues who have been involved with the program from the beginning. So my first question, and thank you, Bonnie and Gary, for joining us today. We're very excited to have you on the call. And as mentioned, you've both been involved with the program from the beginning. So you were there for that initial sunny design day and have continued to support the program in your respective roles. I'm curious what your initial hopes were for the program and how that fits with what you're seeing over the last 5 cohorts. And Gary, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I don't know if that's just me, but I was one of those first physicians that was sponsored by the SMA to take Dr. Brent James' QI course in Intermountain. And I would say one of the things that stood out for me when I went there and took that course and reflected on the learnings that I brought back was that times are changing. I mean, I grew up in an era that to some extent still exists, where we saw ourselves as individual masters of our craft of medicine. But the truth is that evidence is changing so quickly, and often there's incomplete evidence. And oh my God, if COVID has taught us anything, it's how to function in an environment where there's incomplete evidence. And in that sort of an environment, that complex environment that we live in today, it's really next to impossible to really perform at your best working in isolation and being a single player. And clinical quality improvement allows us to work in a team-based, interdisciplinary approach that standardizes most of the workflow and allows us as clinicians to then focus our time and energy more on supporting the smaller percentage of people that don't fit that standard process. So it's a two-pronged approach, one where you create a standard for the majority of people that is implemented, and then a group of people, experts, maintain that standard over time, introducing new evidence. But our job then switches to making sure that we identify the people that don't fit that. And so introducing that into Saskatchewan was the dream. That's a change in culture a bit, if you will. And I have seen the capacity grow in Saskatchewan to do this kind of work, and I've watched our colleagues step up to the plate and take on leadership roles in a wide range of areas. And it's been very exciting to see that capacity build. I think we're at a position now where we actually are well positioned to start to move this towards the dream of a learning health system, where this is a standard work in our way of doing things.
It's so interesting because I know we've had those very explicit conversations in CQIP about that move from single practitioner to understanding the system. And even just when people are comparing their projects, you see those light bulbs going off as people realize that there is this whole network and other folks that have pieces of the puzzle that help everybody, move something forward. Bonnie, are you able to have any audio? I know that you're having some issues.
Yeah, no, I'm having issues. I can hear you guys intermittently, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to pull together the pieces in between the pauses. But can you hear me clearly?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, let's give it a try, and I'll do my best not to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm just looking at that blazer, and I think that's actually my blazer. So
I think it is.
Lovely. Okay, go for it, Shari.
So just your reflections looking at CQIP, over the last few cohorts, and your hopes at the beginning and sort of what you're seeing now.
So first of all, it's incredibly hard to believe that 5 years have passed. And I'd actually say I'm going to go even more than 5 years because, like Dr. Groot indicated, the ambition and the desire within this province to build a strong foundation of quality improvement capability among physicians and across the health system really started, I think, at the turn of the century with, the Fight Commission report and the ambition that Saskatchewan would lead the charge in terms of quality improvement. Science, implementation, leadership, et cetera. So it's been a long journey. But absolutely, the last 5 years have been really, I'm going to say, heartwarming, and they give me a lot of hope for the future when I look at the energy and the positivity that's been generated by the cohorts of individuals that have participated in CQIP over the last number of years. I think, as Dr. Groot alluded to, I think what often will bring a practitioner into this opportunity is a burr under their saddle or a pebble in their foot when it comes to a quality issue and the desire to acquire the skills and the learnings to address that or improve that. And I think what's so fascinating is you come into CQIP one way and you leave CQIP another, and the other way that you leave it is with a much greater appreciation of the complexity of a system, the adaptive necessity of working in a system. So back to those people skills, those relationship skills, the change management skills, and recognizing that can almost be as important, if not more important, than the technical skills that we acquire through a program like the CQIP program. So I think it's now got a very solid foundation in our province, and I'm delighted for that because, again, every high-performing system that I've ever had the privilege of visiting, you can see straight away that there is that strong, vibrant foundation that is respected and nurtured in the system. So I think we've got a good, solid footing for that here in Saskatchewan.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to move us to our next question. So, I think there's all kinds of learning opportunities out there that come in, webinars, conferences, or, our inboxes are full of the different things that we could do. But one thing that I've noticed about this program is that alumni are very passionate about it. Many of the applicants that we get hear about it from colleagues who shoulder tap them and urge them to apply for the program. Every year, every cohort, we put out this call for coaches and faculty and guest faculty, and the response we get is so positive, and people want to get back to the program. They feel like they do come out the other end, changed, as you said, Bonnie. So I'm curious, what do you think makes this program unique, and what is it that inspires this kind of passionate support for it? Gary, let's start with you.
Sure. So I think there's a couple of reasons why physicians or clinicians are so passionate about clinical quality improvement. One of them is it's intuitive. Clinicians want to do best by their patients, and so they want to be up to date. We're all kind of type A competitive. We want to make sure that we're providing the best care we can for our patients, and this just leads right into that. That's one. I think another one is that we've experienced for many years, sort of the way of doing improvement was to have a panel of experts, and if you weren't on the panel, you were a recipient of this rather than a participant in it. A panel of experts that would look at a particular problem, decide what the evidence should be, and then say, this is what we're doing. And then from that point on, it was fixed in stone whether it was correct or not correct. And clinical quality improvement actually is an ongoing process where we acknowledge it's never going to be perfect right up front. We measure what's happening in our own system and make adjustments as need be. And that just feels right. It feels like we're all a part of that process. And there's that assurance that it's not just written in stone, and that, we can improve it as time goes. So I think that's another one that's really a significant reason or behind people's passion. And then finally, and this one I think is really important, I think clinicians were a bit sidelined by the system over the past few decades. And this is an opportunity for us to work collaboratively, not just with our colleagues, but with the system itself. So there's that integration with the system, trying to work together with an interdisciplinary group to make an improvement for the system. And that's something we haven't experienced as clinicians for a long time. And it's refreshing. It's something people want. They're excited about. And when they see the opportunity to make real change and improve the system for their patients, they get very excited about that.
It's exciting to watch it happen too. I just think Capstone is always such a wonderful experience, just to see where the projects start, where they end, those insights. Excellent. Bonnie, anything that you'd want to add?
I think I'll just maybe continue on the last thread that Dr. Groot offered in terms of working collaboratively with the system, but because what first came to mind when I saw this question was because of the really unique opportunity that participants have once they join this program. So when you think of how busy clinicians are, they're running from sun up to sundown on multiple levels. And what CQIP, while there is quite a commitment, obviously, from start to finish, it's almost like you get to escape. You get to escape the tyranny of the urgency and of that world to come and learn in a safe, supportive environment. So when I think of CQIP, I have no doubt that the relationships that people have built as part of their cohort is instrumental to exhibiting passion around this is something that is very different than what people have ever been exposed to when it comes to learning and doing. And they're given the privilege and the opportunity to do it with a cohort of like-minded, curious people. And it's a group or a network that will be with them, going forward, that you can always reach out to or connect with. So it is definitely that concept of collaboration, which within the cohort just speaks and lends volumes to the concept that Dr. Groot brought forward, this notion of working collaboratively in the system and being able to make change. So I think that would be the only thing that I would add, is just that, again, the uniqueness of this learning opportunity, the tenure of it, it's anywhere between a 9 and 11-month program. You can develop some very deep relationships with colleagues that you would have never had the opportunity to do so previously. And the fact that we are a, one health authority, there is opportunity to leverage those relationships in a way that probably didn't exist before.
And then just to kind of build on that, I think, too, the model of having graduates be in that coaching pool, you develop those relationships, and then you also have the opportunity to keep going, to develop new ones, to attend sessions. And, I find with quality improvement, no matter how many times you hear things, you kind of pick up something different every time. So awesome. All right, so Cohort 5, we all can't believe it, but I'm going to get our imagination going even further. So imagine we're having this conversation again, another 5 cohorts down the road. So it's Cohort 10 is coming up. Hopefully we're all in person, not a pandemic. But what would your hopes be for CQIP going forward? So if we're having that conversation, what might you hope that we would be talking about or sharing at that point? And Bonnie, I'll start with you for this one.
Oh, goodness. This one's the hardest question out of the bunch. So thanks, Shari. What are my hopes for CQIP going forward? So it's 5 years from now. Again, CQIP is just, like I say, a foundational must-go-to, must-pursued opportunity for all clinicians in the province, that people who aspire towards leading quality improvement, influencing change and improvement in the system, recognize and seek out this learning opportunity as a critical facet of that development. So there's a real, I'm going to say, an over-demand for CQIP. And that over-demand is there because, again, the system has matured, the health system, in addressing the barriers or the challenges that we continue to hear people face, whether it is, again, what I use, the tyranny of the urgency or not enough time, like that dedicated time, that a bit of that protected time, in situations where we have compensation issues that they're supported. I think the data systems and the other supports that QI teams need to really advance their work are well supported. And again, we've made good progress, but now it's just the way we do business here in Saskatchewan in terms of constantly building and growing the quality improvement capability in our system. So that's what I want to see. The other thing I'd want to see is, again, really, I'm going to say comfortable and intentional, and they're interesting words that I've used, alignment with health system goals. So that real blend of bottom-up innovation, ingenuity, curiosity, and still allowing for clinicians to say, hey, I've got an idea that I think could really be important to address, alongside some, again, system-level ambitions, because when you can get multiple people working on improvement that has the opportunity to change provincially, I think it's pretty exciting. So it's that both and of bottom-up ingenuity, innovation, as well as system-identified opportunities for improvement that can be catalyzed because you have cohorts and groups of people working on many facets of that improvement challenge. So that's what I would like to see 5 years from now, that we are thinking and working in that way.
Awesome. Gary, how about you?
I don't know if I have much more to say. That was well said, Bonnie. The way I picture it is, if you look at the high-performing healthcare systems around North America and the world, there is that bottom-up energy and innovation combined with system priorities. The two meet, and they meet in really this world of clinical quality improvement. So my hope and dream is that by 5 years from now, we will have a structure that supports that in our single health authority, and that CQIP will be the training ground, if you will, for clinicians to be able to interface with that system to provide the leadership and the capacity amongst the clinical group to be able to support that work, not just in one area, but across all of the departments. And I think that's where we want to get to, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. And I see CQIP as a foundational and critical component of that structure functioning well.
Well, we've got 5 full years, and I know with this group of people, it's totally possible. So I love those hopes for the future, and I really do think some great energy to work towards it. So we do have some questions coming in through the chat, and I invite other folks to add theirs as well. And I do think we have some of our CQIP alumni on the call. So if you have things that you'd like to chime in with, for sure, please, they don't have to be just questions in the chat. You can also share your comments and reflections. So one of the questions is just thinking about what sets CQIP apart from other programs. What are some of the, I guess, learning principles that are embedded in the program? So maybe I'll start some of my thoughts. So I think we are very much embedded using adult learning principles, so giving people the opportunities to explore, to focus their learning where they need to. One of the things that we do, so when we have these in-person workshops, we have a process where faculty, we gather together for a day and we plan those workshops, and we look at the previous workshop and say, what do we want to do better so that the next workshop and the next workshop for that cohort is improved. And we're looking at it from, what are the ways we can really help engage people in this learning? So it's not who's going to do a lecture on this for 60 minutes. It's what kind of activity or what kind of case study or what kind of simulation or game would make sense to really help people get the nuances of these concepts. And I know you don't get that in every program. A lot of programs can be very didactic with a lot of lecture and, the fire hose of content. And I think we really make that effort to see it from the learner's perspective and help them connect it to their own setting and to how they want to use the skills. Gary, as faculty, what would be some of your thoughts on that?
I think one of the beauties of this compared to the way the Intermountain course is taught is that flipped classroom approach, where we just assume that as learners you will find the time as it works for you to go through the content. The content's provided on a Moodle, and there's an opportunity for people to review that and prepare in advance. It often takes people a little bit of time to adapt to this flipped classroom, because our in-person time is focused on trying to apply that knowledge. I think the other thing that the HQC folk have done an exceptional job with is bringing in high quality outside people to speak and lead components of the content and the learning. And I think the people that have been brought in over the last 4 cohorts have been absolutely outstanding and amazing, and we're very privileged to be able to have that quality of people coming. So I think that's been another huge benefit.
I'd be curious for any of our alumni that are on the call today, if you have a favorite activity or workshop session, please share it in the chat. I'm always curious what people have enjoyed. One of the things, so this is a comment from Jocelyn, one of the things I've been so impressed with over the years is the emphasis on personal professional development beyond the program. So CQIP grads have the opportunity to stay involved in these different roles, so coaching faculty, guest faculty. So really, yeah, you're a lifelong CQIPper. We give you those socks. They're a graduation gift, but they're not free. The expectation is that you are a CQIPper for life once you accept them.
I'm just wondering, Shari, when I get holes in those socks, do they get replaced?
Yes, for you, Gary, because you have been through every cohort, we will make sure that you are always well stocked. Question, who do I connect a physician to for this, and what is the registration deadline for the next group? So we are open now for applications to Cohort 5. So I believe Riley will put the link in the chat so you can connect directly to it. October 30th is the deadline to apply. We also have, if you go on our website, we have some quick calls. So this is an opportunity for people to join a webinar to learn about the program, ask some of their questions. So you're more than welcome to that. We are also welcome people to send in their application ahead of that deadline for feedback and then resubmit it as long as it's in prior to October 30th. People can get some feedback and then resubmit. So all the details about the timeframes for the program, there's a really good application guide that has a lot of information. In terms of connecting physicians to it, shoulder tapping, Gary, Bonnie, any other suggestions that you would have?
In terms of finding the people to apply?
Yeah, I guess you just kind of reach out to folks that you know might be working on something that would be a good fit for it.
Yeah, we do a fair bit of that. I do personally, but then more and more as this is moving along, and we're moving into our 5th cohort, I have people coming to me and asking, for information and inquiring whether it might be a good fit for them. So I would just encourage all of us that have been a part of CQIP to speak to our colleagues that we think would work well or would be aligned well with CQIP and the values of CQIP, but also to be open to letting people know that they can come and talk to you.
I think I'd just like to add to that. I think we all have personal experiences where, and we can remember them quite vividly, when someone has tapped us on the shoulder for something and said, hey, have you ever thought about, I've seen this curiosity or this interest in you. I think this would be a great opportunity. And you kind of step back and you go, wow, okay, cool, that you've thought that much about who I am and how I tick and opportunities for growth and learning. So I do think that personal connection is absolutely fundamental. I do still worry, or well, again, I think that method is working quite well. My worry continues to be maybe in the community settings, so I think of family physicians. I know probably just about a third of CQIP graduates are family physicians. They still, in our world, work quite independently. While there might be a desire to work and learn with CQIP, it's just like, well, how do I do this? How do I make sure I can still deliver care and get this learning? So I think, again, it's not insurmountable, and I think we can learn from other places, but we can also learn in the province about how can we, again, that collective we, whether it's the medical association, government, the health authority, how can we collectively build policies and supports to make it easier for community-based physicians to participate? So absolutely start with relationships and connections, and the system has a responsibility to make it easy for physicians to embark upon these opportunities, particularly if we say as a system, we want physicians to have this skill and ability, and we want this grown throughout our system.
Bonnie, I'd like to just build a little bit on what I heard you saying, because I think one of the places for future growth or expansion of CQIP into the community will be the opportunity for better alignment between specialist acute care sort of issues and community issues. And let me give you an example of that. I was doing a CME just this week virtually with L'Orange Group. And they brought up, not me, I was talking about something totally different, but they brought up a challenge that they've had with their referrals for people with potential lung cancers, that they would send them to one specialist who would say, well, no, it's a different group that should be dealing with that. And then there was this back and forth that was inefficient and created challenges for them. Excellent opportunity for a CQIP project that would be combined with that group of community clinicians and the people that they're referring to, both the thoracic surgeons, the respirologists, and the interventional radiologists, because we live often in those silos. And this is a perfect example of, and I didn't do it, but I should have said, one of you guys should take that on as a CQIP project and apply for that, because that is where I think we can engage the community physicians a lot better. And I'm sure there's other ways too that I can't think of off the top of my head, but we need to look for those opportunities and build them, and then look for ways that teams of people that can be engaged with a CQIP project.
And I just love that example you gave, Gary. Like, I just got goosebumps thinking about that conversation. And when you said, one of you guys should, go into CQIP, I'm going to say, actually, both of you guys. I bet you this is a multifaceted improvement challenge. So wouldn't it be brilliant to have a physician or physicians or their teams from L'Orange and the specialist group working together, learning together? Like that just takes the whole concept up another level for me. So that's a great example.
So I think teams are welcome to apply. I'll put that out there. And, I think, so for some folks, I think any kind of learning opportunity, there's the time factor. Obviously, a provincial program, there's the travel factor because we kind of rotate between Saskatoon and Regina for sessions. This year with the pandemic, it will be exclusively online for Cohort 5, so that we can do this safely. But for folks that maybe were a little bit hesitant because of the travel commitments, this might be a good year to consider applying to some of those barriers and challenges are a bit reduced in that way.
Shari, can I? You didn't ask this question, but I want to jump in, because one of the things that I think is really important is people think about applying for Cohort 5, and that is, I strongly encourage people. I'm going to use the example, the L'Orange example again. Don't lead with a solution to your problem. So you have identified an issue. That's the thing that you lead with, not with the solution. CQIP will give you the tools to find the right solution, because there's probably other ones that you're not thinking of, and many. That's been probably our biggest challenge over the last 4 cohorts, with people coming in thinking they knew what the right solution was, instead of coming in with an inquisitive mind to learn how to discover the right solution with their colleagues.
Again, I want to jump in, Gary, because fantastic as you were listening. I mean, CQIP really requires a bit of unlearning, almost right from the get-go. So we are very hardwired. I know clinicians are hardwired with, again, urgency, time. Let's get to that solution right away. If I don't have that solution figured out right away or activate on a solution that I think is going to work, I'm not serving my patients well, I'm not serving the system well. And repeatedly, we learn, and we need to embrace that learning, that you really have to put your 55 minutes on understanding the problem first before you go into the 5 minutes of implementing the solution. And again, I hope that's a foundational piece to CQIP. And it's a behavior that takes constant intentionality to exercise, because we so want to, well, let's just do this. And it's like, but let's make sure we understand the problem really, really well. So again, thanks, Gary, a great trigger for, again, CQIP and how it forces that reflection and that love of curiosity, and constantly asking, what are we trying to solve? What's the root cause? What do we know are the factors that are contributing to this? What do we need to know before we come to a solution?
I think the other thing too, so you can apply as a team, and you do work with a team, but CQIP also just has so many supports. So I did mention that there is, the faculty who are always there to help provide guidance and advice, and the lived experience. You have the coaches, and then with the SHA as a partner, there's access to patient and family advisors, which can be so helpful in really understanding what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and how do patients experience that as a problem, or what would be something that they would want to see. There's support with data analysts, which is just a key part of it as well, and improvement specialists within the SHA for those that are working with projects that cross into the SHA. So there really is this whole team around you as you work with your team. I noticed Henny said one of her highlights was Brandon Bennett. So speaking of measurement, he is one of the guest faculty that we've brought in each year, measurement expert. If you Google him, there is an Elvis impersonator with the same name. That's not him, although I would really love it if one of these times he would come in full Elvis impersonator gear and do his measurement teaching. That would be something. But just, I think you have this team supporting you with your project, and then you have the program team, which includes some really, really fantastic people who are local experts like Dr. Groot, but also we bring in folks from all over as well. All right, I'm just doing a quick scan while I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. Anything else that Bonnie or Gary that you would add, or any advice you'd have for people that are thinking about applying?
This isn't advice, but I mean, it's part of that future picture or image. I think I'm almost certain that as this evolves and it becomes the standard way of doing work for clinicians, and it's been adopted and embraced by the Royal College, by the College of Family Medicine, and I am confident that this will become an academic stream for people interested in academia as well. So there'll be, this is just going to become the way of doing business. It's already been embraced. It's a part of our Royal College training for our residents. It's not going away. This is something that is here to stay now.
I would just echo that. I guess, the other thing, it was just a trigger. Again, Gary's doing a great job of that today, is, what's exciting, like in the last 5 years. So now, I've been 5 years with the Saskatchewan Medical Association, and, seeing increasingly signals from the membership through our representative assembly, which is where, you know, elected members in the profession come to dialogue on key policy issues and key concerns of the profession. So when I hear a physician coming to the microphone talking about appropriateness of care and improving care and getting the awareness and ideally the energy behind those ambitions for them to link with other strategies is really heartwarming. And I believe that that is a CQIP outcome. And so, for example, you know, the Choosing Wisely campaign in Canada, you know, it's a pan-Canadian, very important initiative that looks at, you know, again, addressing appropriateness in all facets of care. And we know that Dr. Ryan Lett is leading the work on blood transfusion initiative across the country. And, you know, he is a CQIP graduate. And, you know, I can vividly recall Dr. Lett coming to the microphone at a representative assembly and speaking about blood transfusions and, you know, a variation in care and the appropriateness factor. And you could see at that time, you know, people's ears perking up, including the non-clinicians in the room, like our health system or our health ministry leadership. So that's, again, when I visualize the future state, more of those types of conversations where you see physician leaders alongside other leaders in our health system speaking about variations in care, the opportunity for improvement, and you can hear that they're leveraging the skills and knowledge that they've acquired through a program like CQUIP.
Love that. So we have just a few minutes left, and I see Riley has taken the ball back so that he can go through some of our final slides. I just want to thank both Gary and Bonnie for being here today, for spending time talking about the program that I just absolutely love. And thank you to folks who took the time to join us today. We have recorded this, so if you think one of your colleagues should watch it, we will have the recording available that they can check out. And I know for myself, and I believe Bonnie and Gary, if people have questions that come up after or things that they want to talk about, we welcome people to reach out to you following today's session. So just put that out there. If a question comes to you, as it usually does about 5 minutes after the session ends, please do reach out. We're happy to continue the conversation.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Shari.
Yes, thank you.
All right, back to you, Riley.
All right, thank you. Thank you, all three of you, for that session. So they talked about socks. If you would like some socks without going through the CQIP program, you can become a QI Power Hour speaker. You can join or you can look at our website to learn more about that, because every speaker also gets some socks. After the webinar, when you exit out, we'd like you to fill out a survey in the spirit of quality improvement. We're always trying to look at feedback and get better. You'll see this message that's saying that you're going to external site, but it's safe. It's just SurveyMonkey. So feel free to click continue and give us some feedback. So we are skipping the month of October so everyone can focus on voting. And we will be back on Friday, November 6th at 9:30 with Jennifer Klatt from Johnson Shoyama, and she's going to be speaking to us about coaching. So hopefully everyone can join us there. All right, everyone. Thank you very much.